The book I want to talk about today is Nikolai Gogol's Dead Souls. And there's a whole story behind why I'm reading this book in the first place. But let us just start with I have gotten on a Russian literature kick, though it's mainly Dostoevsky that I am following. And I saw multiple references to Dead Souls, so I figured I should, read this. Most of the books I read now, actually, I shouldn't say most. Actually, about 50% of the books I read now are audiobooks because of my very long commute. And so I picked up Dead Souls as narrated by Arthur Morey. And I didn't realize before I started this that entire chunks are missing from the text. As in, I'm not sure that Gogol actually wrote these, so it was in pieces anyway. But most of it's there, I believe. There's some important chunks missing, but I think it's because he hadn't worked out the details yet, and he was more looking at the consequences of certain actions on the part of characters. And the particular character I want to talk about is Chichikov, which is the main character of Dead Souls. This is the man who is going around Russia to various landowners who have serfs. So this is before the serfs were freed. And if you've never read up on Russian history, it is fascinating to look at how Russia was dealing with its serfs versus how America was dealing with slavery. And it was concurrent. And there were very many similar aspects, other than there's no racial difference between the serfs and the landowners. They're the same, they're all Russians. But there's definitely a class difference here. And you are seeing various levels of class in Russian society. You have the serfs slash peasants, you have the landowners, and then you have like this new bourgeoisie, middle class, very bureaucratic, moving in the Russian government. And it's a little hard for us to know the exact details, but you get an idea. Because Chichikov had been a corrupt government official before he starts out on his Dead Souls quest. And what the Dead Souls is Chichikov is going around to various landowners and asking them, in the last census, okay, you had so-and-so number of serfs, and they keep referring to the number of serfs you own as souls. You own souls. How many of them have died since that last list? Because evidently the landowners had to pay a tax, a poll tax or a head tax for each serf they had. And if the official list said, okay, here's Pavlov or whoever is your serf, and he died since the last time the list, they don't care. You have to pay for him even though he's dead. And so Chichikov goes around buying the dead souls. Now, from the landowner point of view, it makes a lot of sense. You don't want to pay for these, and if you can get them officially off your rolls and onto Chichikov's, why not? That said, some of the people he tries to deal with are just hilarious, and you can feel his frustration because Chichikov, at his heart, is a con man. His first attempt at larceny, whatever, he had been a government clerk in the customs office. And when he was a lowly clerk, evidently, I mean, and this is a comment on the bureaucracy of the time, there was corruption throughout, and you had to pay bribes to your flunkies, government flunkies, to get your business done. And we're not used to this in the US. I mean, the bureaucrats may slow things down, but bribery, outright bribery, is harshly treated with in the US compared to other cultures. Well, he didn't do that. So when he's low down, he's very straight, etc., because he knows he'll get promoted. And so he waits until he's promoted into head of customs. Then he calls up the smugglers and say, hey guys, now I've got the power. Let's do a deal. He is a guy who is patient in his cons. He understands. That said, the con with regards to the dead souls, how is he supposed to make money out of this? It's a little tenuous there. He did have an idea because he had seen an estate go bankrupt and someone paid out for the souls without checking for them. It's unclear to me. That said, even with the missing parts, you get an interesting satire on corrupt hierarchy trying to run the nation, and how the landowners, the serfs, and just people not directly involved are hurt by it. And they're all besmirched by that system. And you can see how this leads to things Dostoevsky wrote, and unfortunately, you can see how it led to the Russian Revolution. Anyway, nice thoughts.